Today I'm interviewing Dr Suhail Hussain. He was born and brought up in Watford, London, the son of immigrant parents from India. Dr Hussain's medical training was at the University of Aberdeen, Scotland. He then moved back to London, where he worked in multiple specialties before focusing on general practice. He is currently an exclusive private GP and focuses on home visits and providing great care for high net worth individuals at the prestigious Wellington Hospital, Elstree, and also in Hertfordshire. Dr Hussain could also be described as a proud family man who enjoys writing and has been featured in several national newspapers. So tell me, Suhail, what do you like about your job?
So what I like about my job is the fact that I consider myself to be a family physician. So having that contact with patients and seeing three generations of the same family, grandfather, parents, and the young children, I think that is what general practice is all about. And that's what it used to be like in the olden days when I was young, and my dad was a GP for 35 years. So I know what it's like being a family doctor, seeing the same family, not having to look at the computer when they come into the room, just seeing, oh, hi David, how are you doing today? Knowing all about them. And if they come in, they look terribly, think, oh my God, this guy looks bad, I need to do something. Or equally, if it's just a chat, we can just have that chat. Being a private family doctor allows me to practice family medicine as it used to be, and I think as how it should be.
Yeah, as a proper doctor. And can you think of something that you have done in the past that you're very proud of? And don't be modest.
So, I mean, over the years, I've been a GP for 18 years, so I've seen hundreds, thousands of patients. So for me to try and recall one incident would be hard, but there are a few incidents that stick in your mind, as I'm sure for yourself as well. So when I was doing peds at Chase Farm Hospital, this mum brought her child in. It was a young baby, a year and a half, something like that. And she'd been to 3 A&Es. She'd been to Northwick Park, I think Watford General, and then she came to Chase Farm. And the baby was really, really irritable, crying, not able to be settled. And I thought, there's something wrong. You know, you get this feeling, you look at a patient, you think, there's something not right here. And she said, oh, they just told me there's nothing wrong, go home. 2 A&E departments had told her to go home. So she'd come through A&E, she'd come to see me as the pediatric doctor on call. And I thought, there's something wrong with this baby. I examined the baby, felt the fontanelle. I thought, this fontanelle is bulging. It doesn't seem right to me. So I said, I asked mum to go outside to say, calm the baby down. Because obviously when you're crying, the fontanelle bulges. So when the baby was calm, I felt the fontanelle. I thought, okay, this baby has a bulging fontanelle, had a mild temperature. I thought, we have to rule out meningitis. So I spoke to the registrar. The registrar reviewed the patient, did the bloods, ended up having LP, had meningitis. And I thought, okay, I've saved this. It's a cliche. I've saved this kid's life, basically. So that was going back several years. But more recently, as I've been working as a private doctor, I've been able to have time to spend with patients. So I saw this young guy, 47, same age as myself, year younger than me. And he said, I've been having these issues with remembering things. I can't remember my son's school. I can't remember my address. And whilst we were talking, he was forgetting things. I thought, this is something seriously wrong here. So I sent him for an urgent MRI same day. And unfortunately, very, very sadly, he had a massive glioblastoma. Very, very terminal prognosis. But again, that ability to spend time with patients, detect something abnormal, and think you need to act upon it urgently. So those are the kind of things that stick in our minds that you remember forever and ever.
No, absolutely. You know, it's very rewarding to be like a proper doctor and have time to actually do proper medicine. No, absolutely. So when you're not working, what do you love doing?
So just before I answer that, I want to say that this is not, I don't want to denigrate NHS doctors, NHS GPs, because they do a fantastic job. And the system has unfortunately failed them. 10-minute appointments, you can't speak about more than one thing at one time. This is not to say that NHS doctors are not proper GPs or not proper doctors. So let's get that out there. So unless our audience thinks that we're downplaying NHS doctors who do a fantastic, brilliant job under really, really difficult circumstances. So as long as we understand that, we're not downgrading the NHS at all. What do I like to do in my spare time? I'm a family man. I suppose I class myself as an old dad. So I got married, I got divorced, didn't work out, and then I got remarried, had kids late. So my eldest child is 9 years old, and now I may not look it, but I'm 48. So any time that I get, I want to spend with my kids, and working flexibly allows me to do that. So for example, I can take a day off in the week, spend time with my kids if I need to, or equally, if we want to go away somewhere, I can do that because I have the ability to work flexibly. So for me, family life is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Okay, and what music do you like listening to right now?
So this is I have a very eclectic taste in music. So as a young child, I used to play the violin, and I was actually the leader of the orchestra for a long time, my school orchestra. So I love classical music, and I particularly love the violin. So my favorite violinist is someone called Maxim Vengerov, and those who are in the classical music or violin will understand who that is. There isn't anyone, in my opinion, who is better than Maxim Vengerov currently. But equally, I love hard rock music. So, for example, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, the Rolling Stones, and my favorite band of all time, Pink Floyd, and of course the inimitable Mr. Jimi Hendrix, the best guitarist of all time. So I suppose it's a combination of classical and hard rock.
So serious music, basically. Yeah, by serious musicians.
So I was saying either you can headbang to it or sit and relax to a lovely piece of classical music.
Do you like to read? And if so, is there anything you've read recently that you really liked?
So reading was something that I used to do. I was an avid reader when I was younger, and I love reading, and I love writing, and I love being able to express myself eloquently and articulately. But sadly now, with work and other commitments, a young family, I find I have less time to read. But I would love to read more. So when I was younger, I used to read a lot of classic novels, Dickens, Shakespeare, all of these greats that we were forced to read somewhat in school, but I actually enjoyed reading them. I feel one can gain a lot about life. Charles Dickens was a great observer of human behavior, equally William Shakespeare. And reading his books and his novels gives you a massive insight into human behavior, human interactions. I also really like the Sherlock Holmes series, and as you probably know, the author was himself a doctor. He based Sherlock Holmes on a character he met, or a tutor he had at Edinburgh Medical School, who used to diagnose people apparently by magic. He used to look at them, make a conclusion, and then present the beginning and the end without showing the working out in the middle. So I think Conan Doyle was impressed by this professor and based Sherlock Holmes on that. So reading gives you a great insight into life, into human behavior, and I think it's a fascinating and really rewarding pastime.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it very much expands the mind and the vocabulary, and it's unparalleled. Okay, tell me about the younger Suhail. What did he want to do when he grew up?
So in keeping with that, actually, as I mentioned, I love reading and I love writing. So when I was in junior school, I had this really great teacher. I still remember Mr. David Flatt. I don't know if he's still alive. I hope he's still alive. Was going back quite a long time now. And he used to always encourage me. And I remember we wrote this we wrote this story, and it was about Guy Fawkes Night. And he had this system where he'd give people grades and stars. And he said, there's one student who's got 2 gold stars today. And I wasn't expecting it to be me. And it turned out to be me. And he said to me, you have a talent for writing. You should develop this. Now, to sort of a cliche, if you like, is in the 80s, Asian parents, as you mentioned, my parents came from India. They were first generation immigrants to this country. My dad's main objective was to work hard for his family, provide for us. He literally came to this country with £3 in his pocket. So he said, Suhail, listen, you're not going to be an author. You've got to do something that's going to put bread on the table. So that whole dream of becoming an author never materialized. But what I'd love to do now, actually, is try and develop that, take that forward. And as you mentioned in the introduction, in the last year or so, I've been writing medical-related pieces for national newspapers, The Independent, The Times, The Telegraph, Daily Express. So I find that is therapeutic.
I'm looking forward to reading what you've written in the future. So, how old were you when you first thought about becoming a doctor seriously?
So it probably would have been after GCSEs. So up until GCSEs, I had no thoughts or inclination to do medicine, even though I'm surrounded by my father was a doctor, as I mentioned, a GP. My family, going back 5 generations, have been medics. So my mother's father was a doctor. My father's uncle was a maxillofacial surgeon. My mother's grandfather was a physician. So there's doctors going back generations and generations, but I never really wanted to do medicine until after GCSE. I did some work experience in Ernst and Young, of all people, of all firms, an accountancy firm. I thought, well, this is not for me. I know for sure this is not for me. And then I suppose imbibing that atmosphere of being in a medical family, seeing your dad get up at night, literally getting up at night to go and do on-calls for his patients, that naturally rubs off on you. There was never pressure one way or the other to do medicine or not to do medicine, but being in that environment sort of makes you consider that as a viable option. And then I spent time sitting with my dad in his surgery. I sat with other GPs. I watched operations. I'm really grateful to the surgeons who allowed me to watch operations as an A-level student. It was a fantastic opportunity. I think it's much harder for students to do that now, but I was afforded that opportunity to watch operations. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So in the 90s, it was a lot easier to spend time in the hospital. Now, with all the bureaucracy and stuff, I think it's much harder.
No, I would definitely second that, Suhail. So, speaking of training and so on, how many years did you have to study for to become the general practitioner you are now?
So, people probably don't know this, but we met 29 years ago, 1995, Aberdeen Medical School. So I remember
the secret's out.
Stephen Humble in the same anatomy group, was that dissection group as me. So how many of us were? 5? I can't remember now. Yeah, it's nice to connect after so many years.
It was Humble and then Hussain.
Yeah, exactly. Salim, I'm still in contact with Salim. He's a GP as well now. So that was 30 years ago. So 5 years at Aberdeen Medical School, 4 years house officer SHO jobs, and then a year of general practice. So what's that? 5 + 3 + 1, 8, 9. And then you never stop learning. Okay, the day I graduated from medical school, not the day the day I started on the wards, I thought, that's it, I'm a doctor. And I realized when I saw a patient, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I thought, okay, I've got a lot to learn. So it's a never-ending process. You never stop learning. CPD, courses, training, on-the-job experience. That's the best experience you can get, on-the-job experience. So I've been learning for 30+ years.
Okay, so bearing that in mind, it's a long time. Is there anything that you would say to your younger self?
What would I say? Take your time. I think now it's harder the way the training is. Graduates have to decide relatively soon what they'd like to do. When I was a junior doctor, I made my own scheme, my own GP scheme. I never entered like a training scheme. I did separate jobs and was able to decide I wanted to do general practice. And equally, I've met GPs who were surgeons, who were gynecologists, who were cardiologists, and they decided at some point that they wanted to change track. I think it's much harder now to do that. But if it's at all possible, try and find what enthuses you, what makes you excited to go to work, and what kind of field you think would keep you motivated to carry on. So people say, it's a cliche, GP, all you see is coughs and colds. No, that's such a cliche. You are helping people, you are forming a relationship with people. And I think the biggest thing for general practice is managing uncertainty. So I teach at medical school and I tell students, look, if you're not happy with uncertainty, don't do general practice. Do something where you have cut and dried pathology, maybe looking at slides or post-mortems, but do something where you know the answer is cut and dried. If you're not happy with uncertainty, do not do general practice, because there's a lot of uncertainty in general practice.
Yeah, and that can be a double-edged sword. It can be rewarding and interesting as well as difficult. And so going back to comments you mentioned before about writing and your medical career, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years' time?
So what I'd like to do is build my client base where I have a number of families, let's say 15 to 20 families whom I look after on an ongoing basis. So that would allow me the time to spend to devote to writing, to devote to more academic pursuits outside of the university. The university is nice, but it's like fixed sessions. I go and teach particular topics. What I'd like to do is develop more academic pursuits or a career or a side career in maybe medical journalism or something like that. Become the next TV doctor, Dr Suhail Hussain, on the sofa, sitting and talking to the nation.
Well, I look forward to seeing that. Okay, so finally, What What would you like to take with you when I maroon you on Shetland?
I've been to Shetland. I think it was no Western Isles for my GP attachment, so I have an idea of what it's like.
It's slightly different. The Western Isles is not Shetland.
Sorry, I know I've been in Scotland. I was in
Maybe a
Scotland for
map.
5 years. I still don't know my geography, but oh my god, it was. Let's just say lonely. So what would I? What was the question? What would I take with me? What would I do?
Yeah. No. What would you take with you when I maroon you on Shetland?
Okay, fine. Okay, it has to be the whole back catalogue of Jimi Hendrix. Absolutely without doubt. It's like Desert Island Discs. The works of Charles Dickens, for sure.
Yes.
Can I take my kids with me or not?
If you can fit them in a bag.
Okay, fine.
They'll be tight. It'll be squashed in that bag. The kids. I don't know if they'll like it.
No, I mean then hopefully a good Wi-Fi connection so I can then chat to them.
Okay. A sat phone. You'll take a sat phone in your bag. Okay. Yeah. All right, Suhail. Well, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Stephen. Cheers. Thank you so much.